Good afternoon. Welcome to the November 11th edition of Sports on Sunset. I'm James Jericho.
I'm Jeremy Paul.
We have a special guest, ChristiAna, who will be our go-to person in a few minutes for the main topic. But before we get there, let's start off with some quick takes on Week 10 in the NFL. A story broke this morning regarding bringing NFL back to Los Angeles. Let's cut to the chase. LA Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa has proven again what kind of a dingle turd he really is. He thinks he can pull the Carolina Panthers out of... he's a high-powered idiot, but he's an idiot nonetheless. The reason he thinks he can get the Panthers out of Carolina is because they have the audacity to own their own stadium. Therefore, they don't have a lease to break. Here's the problem with that logic. If you own your own stadium, that means you have ties to the community. And when you're trying to build a $1 billion stadium in the first place, throwing out an extra $1 or $2 million to get some crappy team to break their lease isn't jack squat. And by the way, Mayor Villaraigosa, if you can't succeed in getting the Panthers out of Carolina, the other three teams with their own stadiums, the New England Patriots, the Washington Redskins, and the Miami Dolphins. Why not give the Patriots a call? Next take.
Danny Amendola is currently playing right now. He's a wide receiver for the Rams. He is currently playing with a dislocated clavicle. He's a wide receiver. That's a man. He just took a hit where he got flipped upside down before I got here. Great job, Danny Amendola, risking your life for a contract. Congratulations.
Building off of the St. Louis Rams, who are under first-year coach Jeff Fisher, the reason that Fisher is doing there's a number of reasons why Fisher is doing such a great job, but one of the things that occurred to me is that he's rebuilding the Rams in his image. Where that's failing is Oakland. And the reason that it's failing in Oakland is if you're going to rebuild a franchise with an entirely different image, you don't hire somebody in their early 30s who's never had a coaching experience before. You hire somebody who has had coaching experience, who knows how to communicate a message in trying to rebuild a program. That person will not win you a Super Bowl, but at least it will get you on the right track. Then your next coach will probably get you to the bowl. Oakland has taken a step back with a coach who doesn't know how to handle adversity, and it's been showing through the last few games. Next take.
Speaking of Oakland, the Baltimore Ravens today turned off the lights, lit a couple of candles, laid Oakland down on some satin sheets, turned on some soft music, some Barry White, I think. Practice what you preach. Then made sweet, sweet love to the Oakland Raiders. I mean, long and slow and deep. 3 hours worth of sweet, sweet loving. 55 to 20 when I stopped watching. 55 to 20.
I know.
That is some shitty playing. Even on offense, where Carson Palmer put up fantasy numbers, because that's all he can do. They suck.
Thank you for confirming my prior take.
Yeah.
Laying in the weeds. About to possibly finally get revenge when they both coached in Division I college football, Pete Carroll. Right now, the Seahawks have a 2-score lead on the Jets, while the San Francisco 49ers, who everybody loves, is playing with a backup quarterback and might lose to St. Louis. The schedule for the Niners gets tougher, and they will play in a few weeks, which gives Pete Carroll, former USC coach, to try and finally get his revenge on former Stanford coach Jim Harbaugh, who he can't stand. You might have this one coming, Coach Harbaugh. Final take. Actually, I got one more if you got one more.
Yeah, I got one. Adrian Peterson is making a run for Eric Dickerson. And I'd love to see this happen. For one reason and one reason only. Because People have been drawing the comparison between Eric Dickerson and Adrian Peterson's running style since Adrian Peterson jumped into the NFL and started speeding through everybody. Peterson is going to run himself right out of a knee sometime in the next 2 years, which means that Adrian Peterson will not be dealt with by the Bears after 2 more years of him running as hard as he is right now, especially after having a knee injury, knee surgery earlier this year and being out for a year.
There's a new book in which New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft asked Bill Belichick, hey, that whole Spygate thing, illegally videotaping the New York Jets practices for the Patriots' benefit, on a scale of 1 to 100, how did that help us? Belichick answered 1. Kraft is reported to have said that you're a real schmuck. Didn't lead to Belichick's firing, only led to a couple of fines for the Patriots, and even former New York Jets coach Eric Mangini, who tattled, apologized for the tattling. What is the moral of this story? Be a schmuck. Guys, let's get to the main topic. The reason we have a Sports on Sunset First, a special guest, is I am genuinely interested now that Major League Soccer is in its playoffs. It's not necessarily whether or not the Americans will ever be great in the World Cup or something like that. They're kind of moderately good, but I'm always interested in a sport that I love but don't completely understand. And you've been playing soccer for almost all your life, I would say?
Yes.
From what part of Portugal, I might add?
North.
Okay.
Small town.
Well, with that said, is it more or less the sport of the Portuguese?
Absolutely.
Because in the World Cup, I remember when the Americans, I think, upset Portugal like a couple of World Cups ago. This was like massive, because the Portuguese were like top 10 or something like that?
Yes.
Okay. So, you're going to be our resident soccer expert today, because you can see it from a point of view that we can't. We pathetic Americans. There's different styles of play in every sport, whether it's team by team in football or baseball or whatever. Is there a way that is there an American style of soccer that we play that is significantly different than, say, the Europeans, South Americans, and can you explain that for us in a way that Americans can comprehend?
Good challenge.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to try.
Please do.
Yes, I do see different styles in different countries and areas of the world. I would say America, as is usual with everything else, is sort of trying to mix things together. But they're going more into the technical aspect of this soccer style, just more of a technical style than, let's say, Latin America, for example.
Okay.
I see their style as more creative. They're more spontaneous. They're more unpredictable. It's
They
more,
being the South Americans.
Yes.
Whether it's obviously Brazil. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that would be one of the big ones. It's very, what I would call, their style, they play from the heart. They play from their passion of mixing two fun activities together. When I see a Brazilian soccer player play, it's more like they're dancing with the ball.
Mm-hmm.
They're, being very flirty with their teammates and other teams and the ball, and they're really having fun with that kind of activity. Whereas what I would say the British or English style of soccer is very technical. It's very by the book.
Mm-hmm.
You went to school, they told you these plays are what works, this is the formula, it works every single time, get it right, you'll score. That would be the difference.
So we are angling more towards being, or is it a fair assessment then to say that we are angling more towards being European, or you're saying we're mixing things? Are we trying to be two things at once and therefore not necessarily excelling in either?
I would say your American style is wanting to be more technical because that is the formula that works by the book. But I would also say you give leeway to the creative players. So you're trying to mix a very technical player in with a very creative player and see if that can mix well together.
With that said, is it working?
No.
No. Why?
As is obvious by standings and ratings, no, you are not making that work.
Okay, so, well, that's not my fault. I promise.
Not you personally, but the American.
Well, why, okay. Well, I'm assuming you keep in touch with plenty of people back in Portugal, and because you've gone to other countries in Europe. What is the general opinion of American soccer? I mean, because I'm sure you even keep in touch with them now. I'm sure you talk soccer. What is the general opinion of, say, not only the American team in the World Cup,
Yes.
but of Major League Soccer? Or do you guys even talk Major League Soccer because it's maybe an inferior product?
We don't talk Major League Soccer. We don't talk American soccer when I speak to European friends and that kind of frenzy, because it's not something that's really on the map. If you want my opinion, I think
I'd rather you give it to us straight. You know.
here's how I see it. American soccer, it's you grow up, you're very young, your parents put you in a program. It's very educational. It's AYSO. You're learning with coaches from very young age to play the ball and make the plays. European soccer, Latin American soccer, there was no education. Your education was experience. You get out there with a couple of friends and you kick the ball around and you figure these things out as you go, and it just comes out naturally. It's not like somebody told you what to do and they didn't give you the formula.
Have you ever gone to a Major League Soccer game, or either in person, or have you watched it because, there's not a whole heck of a lot else on that might... I don't know what sports you watch, really, to be honest with you.
I watch mainly soccer.
Okay. So with that said, you're just hanging out, nothing better to do. The Galaxy is playing Real Salt Lake.
Okay.
Do you watch it and do you sit there and the bottom line is this: is it even remotely any good?
No, it's not the same kind of soccer that I would describe as good. I went to the LA Galaxy game last Sunday versus San Jose. It was a playoff game.
Right.
It was a playoff game. It was the second game against San Jose, and they lost 1-0. And LA Galaxy is known to be a big deal here in America, especially in Los Angeles, because they have top players.
Right.
They have Donovan and Beckham, which are the top players in the world stage. They lost 1-0 to a defender from San Jose in a free kick. Didn't put it over the wall. It just put it through the wall. It hit one of the players. It hit the goalie, and then swirled into the goal. That was it at the last 5 minutes of the game. That is not quality soccer. That is not something that they work on to make work. That was two very mistakes, I would say.
Obviously, you remember Pele then. I mean, from way back when.
Right.
Pele closed out his career, as everybody knows, by playing for a league that doesn't exist anymore, the North American Soccer League. Played for the New York Cosmos. They were like the one time that soccer players were treated like rock stars in the United States.
They're bringing it back.
Are we saying that are you saying that from the foreign perspective, David Beckham, Robbie Keane, and some of the other guys that MLS has brought in is basically the same damn thing?
Here's the thing that's different about this. You're talking Pele, you're talking decades ago. If you want to talk soccer now, you're talking money. America has been putting money into soccer to make money, versus back in the day it was more entertaining. It was less worrying about big numbers coming in. It was more about the entertainment factor and the fact that this sport was new and it was just coming up and beautiful things were happening, and that's what people were getting latched on to. Now you're talking about Americans putting money into a sport because they're seeing it grow, and it is growing. American sport is growing.
So that part at least is not just talk.
No, American soccer is growing because there's more interest, and the more interest America sees in soccer, the more money they're going to put into it to make more money.
When I watch, say, a Champions League game, I can see the difference. I think Americans, for lack of a better term, simply can't shoot straight. But the other thing with Champions League is it's fun. I think it's a genuinely fun product. Is that maybe one of the things that Major League Soccer is missing at the moment, that fun aspect to it?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is it as simple? What is the fun of soccer that we're not getting treated to when we watch a game in the United States?
Well, and that's the thing about America. You're putting a lot more attention into sports like baseball in America. That's fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's what children growing up in America find fun, Americans, basically. But if you go into these states and these little neighborhoods where the demographic isn't American, Native Americans, they come from a family who grew up differently in another country, who migrated here, and their first love is soccer, because in the rest of the world, soccer is the most important sport.
Was when you first moved to the United States, were you sitting there thinking these guys just think we're fun? These guys are just a bunch of retards when it comes to soccer. I probably shouldn't have used that word, but it's the only one that came to mind. I mean, like we're a bunch of rubes.
I found it interesting that all I heard was, it's disappointing to watch grown people run for 90 minutes after a ball for a score that's like a 1-0 or sometimes it's 0-0, and then it goes to penalty shootouts. I found it fun that people thought that was disappointing, when really it's half of the fun. You don't really know what's going to happen. Some games are 8-0, some games are 0-0, and it comes down to penalty shooting, and that just breaks your nerves, and that's the fun.
So is that the biggest misconception that Americans have about soccer? That would be the biggest misconception.
There's another comparison that you can make between American sports being a little lazier, that you don't have to run 90 minutes. You don't do 5 to 7 miles.
Well, yeah, but I mean, maybe the American fan, but the American soccer enthusiast who actually likes to play, I mean, they may not have that ability, but I think they can certainly respect the aerobic, machine-like nature of a lot of these foreign players.
That's a good compliment that I like to hear about soccer, is the kind of athleticism that you need to have to be able to keep up. Sprinting, walking, jogging for 90 minutes, people feel the difference when they move from sport to sport.
Now, I will concede the fact that we will probably never have a duplicate of, say, a David Beckham. Somebody with that kind of touch.
I hope not, sorry.
But with that said, well, no, let me ask a different question.
What is David
I have a
Beckham
different,
known for?
I have a,
Free kicks.
Yeah.
What is ChristiAna Ronaldo known for? Free kicks.
Well, actually, I was
The
thinking.
stands.
Actually,
Right
what
before
I
the free
was.
kick is actually his thing.
Well, the reason I was bringing that up is because I don't necessarily see somebody with that kind of ability coming through the ranks in the United States. What could be something that the Americans can figure out to kick the game, pardon the pun, into the next level? What is the next thing that Americans could, in theory, master? Because that's
In the game of soccer.
yeah. You look at you look at a bunch of Americans
That's
play
the one.
soccer, and you say, if these people can figure out how to do blank,
Think less. They're natural. They're really trying. They're trying to combine the technical, the by the books, with the be a natural at it and just react to what's happening. Instead of do a little bit less thinking, do a little bit more reacting.
last question, actually 2 questions, but saying the last question, the Asian nations weren't that much into soccer, and yet they've gotten very competent in a very short period of time.
Yes.
I don't necessarily look at them as playing the freestyling way of the South Americans. What have they done that the Americans have not done?
What the Asian culture is known for being best is discipline. They are incredibly disciplined. The Japanese, for example, specifically the women's team. Now we're going to women's soccer, which is a
I have
different
one
world.
question about that as well, but I'll wait for
Men's
that.
soccer.
Yeah.
They're a very possessive team. They like to play possession. That's their safety zone. As long as they have the ball, they'll feel safe, and they'll wait for the opportunity to score a goal. They don't want to waste it. They don't want to take a chance.
How does that differ from, say, being incredibly technical, as you described the Europeans a few minutes ago?
The most technical team that I know is the British team. The difference is the British team will be more aggressive in their attack, in their offense, where the Japanese are more defensive. They like the possession. The risk that they'll take, they want that to be they want that that to be a success. If they're going to take that risk, 99% of the time they want that to be a success.
Final question overall. You had mentioned the women's game. I think I know the answer to this, but I'd rather hear it from a woman. Why have the Americans excelled in women's soccer so soon? So soon. It took a while. It's been a lot. There haven't been that many women's World Cups, if my memory's correct.
There haven't. It all started in the 90s.
Yeah.
Which is very new. It's very new still, but the question again?
Why have the Americans excelled in women's soccer?
Money. They put the players put time into getting the fans to put money into soccer. The association saw the generation of what could be. They're putting more money into America and Great Britain are the ones that are the only countries that are putting a big amount of money into women's soccer to make it grow. Every other country in the world doesn't really have that many club teams where the country sees the growth and money, so they're not investing. A lot of these kids, a lot of these girls growing up, they play with the boys outside the pickup game, and that's how they get good. Here in America, they see the potential, and they put money into these programs like AYSO, and they have the children grow up around soccer, around the technical, and they become superstars over time. There's this superstar thing that happens in this country, that in other countries, you are a superstar, but you're not in the media as much, you don't have that attention. And the media blows everything up to start level.
Okay. I want to thank you for the input. I think anything Jeremy and I would have said on this topic would have been completely full of shit. But with that said, why don't you tell them what's on your mind, brother?
Speaking about full of shit, no. Over the last week, there's been a lot of talk about a peewee football player named Sam Gordon, short for Samantha Gordon, who apparently, over the span of a peewee football season, has scored 35 touchdowns and ran for 2,000 yards as a running back. This little girl is, her father uploaded a highlight video of her long touchdown runs, running past little boys that are the same age or slightly older. 9 years old, this little girl is. Stephen A. Smith was on ESPN. They had a whole panel of men, grown-ass men, talking about what this means for the sport and for women. Stephen A. Smith gave a long diatribe about why little boys shouldn't play football with little girls, and because they'll learn to hit little girls, and they'll, outside of football, they'll start hitting women. They'll become women beaters. They'll lose any sort of moral decorum about hitting women because they hit a little girl during football. Look, Stephen A. Smith, you're a fucking moron. If you actually believe what you said, you're a moron. I have three cousins that are female that played football. Neither one of them has ever been hit by a dude outside of playing football. My cousin Nicole was a linebacker. She has 5 kids now. She's never been hit by a dude. At least she didn't tell me she has. So what I'm saying is this. Samantha Gordon will probably grow up and play soccer, because that's what she says she wants to do. She wants to play soccer. She likes playing football because she's better than the boys at it right now. If you look at the video online, Sam Gordon, Pee-wee football, you'll see this little girl is at least 5 to 6 inches shorter than every other boy on the field, but is clearly outrunning them. She's going to make a hell of a soccer player one day. I don't know what position she'll end up playing, something where she's running very fucking fast. She might even go on the track. But Stephen A. Smith, you're a moron. Everybody that was on that program, Skip Bayless and whatever the 2 other dudes, you're fucking morons. If you actually believe that any of these little boys that play football against her are going to grow up to hit women because they played against a girl, morons. I'm done.
You know, I don't want a woman to get hit outside of the game, but I will say this: if you have 5 kids, your uterus is taking quite a pounding. I mean, there's just no nice way to say it. I'm sorry. It's there. But guys, earlier last week, Marquise Wilson accused his coach of abuse. And he wrote a letter that was posted to all the fans of the team, apologizing, saying, look, this was going to be our year, but, you know, I can't take this sort of abuse, so I resigned from the team. I am not a quitter. And the coach had been accused of abuse before, which makes one think that there might be credence to the accusation, until you realize he plays for Washington State. Washington State has been abusing its own fans and college football in general since the year 2003, which was their last bowl appearance in the first place. Your most famous player ever, I think he might have served time in the federal pen for drug running, Ryan Leaf. That guy. Nobody. Just because you wound up getting Mike Leach as your coach, I don't care if you were waterboarded. You guys have been torturing anybody watching this team for the last 10 years. So I went through a guy's background, right? This is what Mike Leach did when he was coaching at his prior school. A player skipped class, so he put a desk at the 50-yard line and made him study right in the middle of the field. That's torture. I mean, if you were a real jerk, you might have to run laps with cinder blocks around the campus. If you were failing in English, you had to read Shakespeare in front of the English building, and you had to do math in front of engineering. That's torture. Of course, why did he eventually get accused of abuse then? Oh, I don't know. Could it possibly have been because an ESPN analyst kid went to school at Texas Tech and didn't like the way he was being treated? So what happens now? The guy goes to Washington State. This is torture. 18 players have quit or been kicked off the team because he promoted freshmen on the depth chart. Last week, he said his offensive line played like, quote, they bordered on cowardice. And then he made the linemen come out and answer questions from the media on purpose. That's torture. They banned Twitter accounts. And, oh, by the way, here's the big part of torture. If you fight in practice, you have to put on boxing gloves and basically take on a slam man thing in a sand pit for 31-minute rounds. No player has lasted more than 12. That's torture? That's abuse? Really? I have a man pile of 50 naked Iraqis who would beg to differ, dude. Go. Grow up.